Welcome to the morning edition of Afternoon Idle. I'm Andrew. I am a certified unified mindfulness coach, a programmer, a number of things. What I'm not is a licensed therapist or a licensed mental health professional. What we've been doing is doing kind of a break in our day. I was originally calling this Afternoon Idle because it was happening in the afternoon. Today I've had to move it to the morning. Hopefully this will be the only time I have to sort of move it to the morning in November. So this is a little bit of an experiment for me. I'm in between leading corporate mindfulness meditation classes. So in order for me to keep doing guidance and to kind of stay sharp, I thought about doing that. Also, just November, regardless of what's going on, is often a sort of hectic month anyway for people. So I thought that might be something that would be somewhat beneficial as well. And hello, Richard. Good to see you. So what I've been doing in these, so we've been doing about 15-minute sit, roughly. I think if some of the people have clocked, if you're scoring at home, they've probably been like more like 15, 30, or 16 minutes. But what I've been offering is contrast, what I'm calling, I made this up, this is not like an official term, but a contrast sit. So we're doing something for part of it, and then at the end of it, we're doing nothing. So we're using and leveraging a technique for part of the sit, and then we're letting go of that technique for another part of the sit. And so I've been playing around with techniques that come out of the Unified Mindfulness System. And for this week, I've been using the category of body sensations. So either physical body sensations or emotional body sensations, but in that sort of category. In the way of looking at sensory experience in unified mindfulness, we have three rough categories for handling that. And we can sort what's going on for us as a combination of one or more of those three categories. So today we're just looking at feel. No need for you to have to know that, just to give you some framing for where this is coming from. And then, so we'll do a sit. We'll settle in a couple minutes at the beginning, kind of get our bearings. We'll do that technique, and then we'll let go of that technique. And so one of the things that I find interesting or offer this as a sort of a way of looking at and tuning where you're at in your practice or where you're at with your concentration, clarity, and equanimity is to kind of sample how you feel at the end of that something. Today's something is feel flow. And then how you feel at the end of that nothing, of doing nothing, letting go of the technique altogether and doing what in some traditions is referred to as choiceless awareness. And so somebody asked me, they sent me a message about what I will guide to sort of check in and see how you feel before we make that transition. And so what I'm looking for is just a rough kind of notion of what's alive for you or what sensory experience is kind of like. So, are you feeling more centered? Are you feeling less centered? Sort of from a standpoint of kind of where things are from the beginning. So that's an answer for that. And I don't think they're watching today, but maybe they'll watch the recording. And so that's that. So feel is our category today. That means that what we'll be focusing on, what's in the range of what we would consider to be our observation in the something portion, is external body sensations. So the feeling of your clothes on your body, the feeling of the air, the weight of your body in your chair, the feet placed on the ground, all examples of the external sort of physical body sensations that we would have. And then also within our focus ranges, the emotional body. So what's coming up for us from an emotional perspective. So that would be, we can also think of that as feel in. So there's feel out and there's feel in. And adding to the mix, what we're looking at is the experience of flow. So as we notice the sensations changing, so an example maybe for a feel out sensation that may have flow around it is an itch. So an itch may change in where it is, in the intensity of it, and it may just go away. But there's a flux or a change around that quality. And we can think of that as flow. And so flow is, in essence, we're just noticing a sensation that's changing over time. And so our labels for the noting practice portion are feel for either emotional body or physical body sensations. We can use feel for both of those. And then this new thing that I've added to the mix of if we see the sensory experience changing over time, that's we can notice that as flow. And so at the very end, I'll just mention a little bit of why I think practicing or adding flow to a practice can help sort of tune in our skills, so our CC&E a little bit. So we will put 15 minutes on the clock and settle in. So to begin, I like to move through my pre-flight checklist. And for me, I look at posture, tension, and then calm, or sort of a setting into or settling into the posture. So with our posture, what we're looking for is a posture that is in one way dignified. We could say a posture that supports being both relaxed and alert. Qualities of the posture that help support that is an upright, elongated spine, not tensing around or sort of efforting in order to hold that that position. And then if you're sitting in a chair or you're sitting on a cushion, you can consider just checking in with your alignment. So ideally the shoulders are over the hips, the nose is in line with the navel. And you're allowing, in essence, the upper body to sort of arrange and rest around the central spine. And the next thing I look in is just, is there tension present in the torso? So normally I'm just going to check from shoulders up. So is there tension in my shoulders, neck, jaw, eyes, forehead? And if there is, seeing if I can kind of coax that tension into relaxing. If not, no big deal. And then before we begin the technique, I like to just try to set into or settle in with a few calming breaths. And for today, I'm going to just offer as an invitation trying a technique that comes out of Dr. Andrew Huberman's lab, who's at Stanford. And he's got several breathing protocols that he's exploring and researching with different people around settling in essence, what he refers to as state change. And so what he says is showing, at least in their early research, as being a really good way of settling in is what he calls the double sigh. So it's an in-breath and then another in-breath and then an elongated exhale. And do that through the nose. So it's an in-breath. So an in-breath, and then an elongated exhale. And in doing that, you can accentuate a bit of that downward settling motion. So I invite you to begin with what we talked about, our noting practice, or our technique, Feel Flow, which is employing noting. And see where the attention is drawn, maybe to the weight of the body in the chair, or maybe you're feeling a little upregulated. There's a anxious quality in the stomach, or other locations. So we notice that, and really soak our attention in, and then optionally label it feel. And we're reusing that label for both physical and emotional body sensations. And you may notice that whatever you were noting perhaps has moved, or the quality of it has changed. Could become more intense. It's possible. If you notice the changing of that sensory experience in the body, we can label that feel. Or correction, we label that flow. We observe the changing qualities. We use the label flow. So explore this for a bit. And so just because we've decided to focus on the body doesn't mean that mental images or sounds around you won't be arising. So if your attention gets pulled away, it's okay. It's an opportunity to bring a no big deal attitude towards that, sort of a nod of equanimity, and then bringing the attention back to our focus range, back to the body. And so I just offer, like I'd mentioned at the top, just sort of checking in with where you're at right now. When we begin to tune into flow, we may feel that the flow is going to sort of expand and overwhelm us. So in the guise of predicting and preparing, we can always shift to focus on sounds around us, open our eyes and focus on sights around us, things that are stable, or focus on the neutrality that may be alive in the body. So feeling of your feet on the floor, your hands. So just a sample of that before we shift into the do nothing part. All right. So this is an opportunity to drop the technique, let go of that, and to just coast. We've been pedaling, doing our something. Now it's an opportunity to just coast to the end. So if you haven't done this before, we're letting go of all the technique. We're going to let our attention go wherever it wants. Completely free range. So if we're used to doing formal techniques, just this sort of dropping of any technique is sometimes jarring. So if you notice that you're directing or sort of trying to orchestrate what's going on, see if you can let that go multiple times, then it's a potential sign that that's kind of what the attention is sort of wanting to do. Can shift into a bit more of an equanimous stance where we're just allowing that. If your mind has decided to retrace why rechargeable batteries should really last longer for the 100th time, just letting that be. as we begin to wind down, just another opportunity to check in and see where you're at. So for some, the feel flow part will be something that resonates far more with their nervous system, with their consciousness. And the nothing part is actually not calming and not your jam. It's the contrast that I think is helpful. And so if your eyes have been closed, go ahead and open them and connect to your surroundings. I want to thank you for sitting with me. I'm after years of doing talking at a screen for some of the teaching that I used to do for technical training, I definitely appreciate when folks join in, and so thank you for joining me and sharing the practice time. I teased at the beginning a kind of a why do you feel flow, and I would just offer that in the Unified Mindfulness community, you can find out more about that at unifiedmindfulness.com. This is the practice for a lot of folks that I know, at least in the Tucson area, that are folks that have been practicing in Shinzen system for a number of years. And what I think they're hinting at is this quality of being aware of the sensory clarity, tuning in their sensory clarity around flow, begins to generate confidence around their ability to meet what's going on in the present moment. And it seems, although I have absolutely no research to prove this, but it seems like their time with practicing feel flow has cultivated that ability for the sort of a buoyancy, or in other words, like this idea that that they're not sort of going to be toppled over by what's happening in their present moment experience. So flow is available to you in all three categories. We just experienced it today in feel, but it's available to you in hear and in see. So just as an aside. And then if the nothing part was something that resonated with you, then you probably already know about the Do Nothing Project that Jeff Warren does on Sundays. So there's more of that, although there's something sprinkled into the Do Nothing Project often. So thank you so much for joining me and everything else. I really appreciate that, especially for folks today, regardless of kind of what your opinions are. There's likely to be a lot of things alive for you today. So, and thank you so much, Rich, for joining. So appreciate it. Have a good day.